Good morning, boys and girls. I hope that you've been enjoying tuning into Heroes from Hebrews over the past couple of weeks and hearing about different people from the Bible. This morning I'm going to start by asking you a little bit of a strange question. Have you ever been in a wrestling match? A real wrestling match? Maybe you're a little bit like me and you have a brother or a sister. And maybe whenever you disagree, sometimes it used to be for me, I have a little brother, and if I moved his football or his cricket bat, or if he used my special limited edition smelly gel pens or little pots of paint, that sometimes that would result in a wrestling match. And today we're going to hear about a man called Jacob who was in a very special sort of wrestling match. And Jacob, you might recognise the name Jacob from the Bible. His dad was called Isaac and his brother was called Esau. And well, Jacob is a really, really great example of a hero of faith for us, but he certainly wasn't perfect. And we're going to hear just a little snippet of his story today. Jacob decided to move him and his family to a new town or a new part of the country. But to get there, he had to go through a dangerous land. And maybe if I said to you, what do you think of when you think of a dangerous place? Maybe you think of really scary people that live there. Maybe you think of scary animals, maybe a place that doesn't really have very much food or water. And I'm sure if we've heard anything on the news, I'm sure we've seen some pictures or videos of quite scary or not very nice places. But this wasn't because there was really scary people or a massive army in this place. He was scared of travelling through a part of the country because his brother lived there. Now, isn't that a little bit strange? Not because of something which we might think of as scary, but years earlier, Jacob and Esau had had a little bit of a fallout. And Jacob hadn't made a very good choice. His brother Esau was supposed to get a blessing from his father because he was the eldest brother. But instead, Jacob tricked his dad and he got the blessing instead. And as you can imagine, Esau wasn't very happy about it. Instead, he was very, very angry about it. And Jacob actually had to run away from Esau because he was so cross. And now he needed to travel through the place where Esau lived. And Jacob was sleeping one night as they were travelling to this new place. And he was so scared that he called out to God. He said, God, please protect me. Protect my family. Keep me safe. What's going to happen? I'm so worried about Esau being there. And God, please keep your promises. You have promised that you will always be with me. Please keep your promises. And maybe he didn't get the result that he expected. Because all of a sudden, there was a bright white figure. A little bit like a man, but extremely bright, so bright that Jacob could barely even look at the person. And guess who it was? It wasn't an ordinary man at all. It was God, and he had come to Jacob. And they didn't come, and Jacob didn't just have a chat with him. Instead, he wrestled with him, not even just for a couple of minutes or even a couple of hours, but for the whole night he wrestled with God. And whilst that seems a little bit strange, do you know that reminds me a little bit of myself? Because sometimes I wrestle with God. Sometimes I'm praying to God and I maybe don't get an answer as quickly as what I want. Maybe I am praying about something that I am scared about and I don't feel calm straight away. And over this time, when we've been in a really strange situation in our world and we're calling out to God and asking him why and where is he? And sometimes it takes a little while to see what God is doing. And that's a little bit how Jacob was feeling. He was feeling confused, he was feeling scared, and he was wrestling with God. And I wonder, can you think of a time, probably you weren't wrestling with God in your bedroom, but can you think of a time whenever you felt that you might be wrestling with God? Maybe you're really worried about going back to school, and you know that God's promise is that He'll always be with you, but you feel a real wrestle in your heart because you still feel worried about it. Maybe there's someone in your family that's sick and God just hasn't healed them yet. And maybe that's not His plan, and that is a real wrestle in your heart. And I'm sure maybe you can think of other things in your heart that you can wrestle with God about. And I love this story of Jacob because he is still a hero. Even though he maybe made some bad choices and he wrestles with God and gets confused and gets scared, that he is still a hero because he still chooses to follow God's promises. And do you think that God lets him down? No. In that story, Esau was happy to see Jacob, not sad, but instead of hurting him, he hugged him. And to me, that just shows us how good that God is and how we can rely and trust in His promises. And it tells us that in Hebrews, right until the very end of Jacob's life, whilst he still maybe wrestled with God, he still followed Him in faith and he trusted in His promises. So I wonder this week, can you have a little think about maybe something that you're wrestling with God about inside your heart? Maybe you're worried. You're maybe like me and you're going back to school very soon and you're a little bit worried about that. Can you hand that over to God this week and try and trust His promise that He will always be with us? Maybe you're worried about somebody that's sick. Can you give that to God and trust that He will always be with you and He will always be with them? Have a little think about things that you feel that you are wrestling with. And let's try and follow Jacob's wonderful example of being honest with God, being truthful with God, yet always being faithful and always trusting in His promises.